Then I go into the dugout and get hold of a mug of barley broth. The pearl barley has been cooked in fat and tastes good, and I eat it slowly. But I keep to myself, even though the others are in better spirits now that the shelling has died down. The days roll by, and every hour is incomprehensible and matter of fact at the same time. Attacks alternate with counterattacks, and slowly the dead pile up between the trenches in no man's land. We can usually get out and fetch back any wounded men that aren't too far away. Some have to lie there for a long time, though, and we listen to them dying. We search for one of them for 2 whole days in vain. He must be lying face downwards and can't turn over. It's the only explanation for why we can't find him, because only when someone is screaming with his mouth close to the ground does it make it hard to gauge the direction. He'll have one of the worst sorts of wounds, one of those that are not so bad as to weaken the body quickly and let you just drift off in a half-numb state, but not so light that you can bear the pain with any reasonable expectation of getting over it. Cat reckons that either his pelvis has been shattered or he's been hit in the spine. He says that his chest can't have been hit or he wouldn't have so much strength to scream, but if he had some other kind of wound, you would be able to see him moving. Gradually, he gets hoarser. His voice sounds so weird that it could come from anywhere. 3 times during the first night, groups of our men go out there, but every time they think they have the right direction and are crawling towards him, the next time they hear his voice, it's coming from somewhere else. We search in vain until it starts to get light. During the daytime, we scan the area with field glasses, not a trace. By the second day, the man is quieter, and you can tell that his throat and lips are parched. Our company commander has promised priority leave and 3 extra days to anyone who finds him. That is a huge incentive, but even without it, we would do all we could anyway. The shouting is so awful. Cat and Crop even make another sortie during the afternoon. In the process, Crop gets an earlobe shot off, but it is no use, and they come back without him. And on top of it all, you can hear quite clearly what he's shouting. At first, he just screamed for help all the time. Then in the second night, he must have become feverish because he's talking to his wife and children, and we can pick out the name Elise. Today, he's just crying. Towards evening, the voice dies away to just a croak, but he groans softly all through the night. We can hear him so clearly because the wind is blowing towards our trench. In the morning, when we think he must have gone into his rest long since, we hear a gurgling rattle once again. The days are hot and the dead lie unburied. We can't fetch them all, and we don't know where to put them. The shells bury them for us. Quite often their bellies swell up like balloons. They hiss, belch, and move because of the gases which are rumbling about inside them. The sky is blue and cloudless. In the evenings it becomes oppressive and the heat rises out of the ground. When the wind is in our direction, it brings the smell of blood, heavy, and with a repulsive sweetness, a waft of death breathing out of the shell holes, a smell that seems to be composed of a mixture of chloroform and decomposition, and which makes us feel faint or makes us vomit. The nights turn quiet, and the hunt for copper driving bands from shells or for the silk parachutes from French rockets flares starts up. Nobody really knows why the driving bands are so eagerly sought after. The men who collect them simply declare that they are valuable. There are people who hum so many of these away with them that they are bent and staggering under their weight when we withdraw. Haye at least gives a reason for collecting them. He wants to send them to his girlfriend as a substitute for garters. When they hear this, there is naturally a great outburst of merriment among the other lads from his part of the world. They slap their thighs. That's a good one, bloody hell, no Haye. He's a sharp one and no mistake. Of all of them, Chodden is the one who just can't stop laughing. He's got the biggest of the driving bands and is forever sticking his leg through it to show how much room there is to spare. Christ, Haye, she must have a pair of thighs. Thighs! And mentally, he moves up a bit. And a bum, too. She must have a bum like an elephant's. He can't get over it. I wouldn't mind a bit of a slap and a tickle with her. Not half, I wouldn't. Haye beams to hear his girlfriend getting all this acclaim and says in a self-satisfied and succinct manner, "Oh, aye, she's a big lass." The silk parachutes are of greater practical value. 3 or 4 will make up a blouse, depending on bust size. Crop and I use them for handkerchiefs. The others send them home. If their womenfolk could see the risks that the men sometimes take fetching these flimsy rags, it would really give them a shock. Cat catches Chodden trying to hammer the driving band off a dud shell, calm as you please. With anyone else, the thing would have exploded, but Chodden is lucky. He always is. For the whole morning, 2 butterflies have been playing around our trench. They are brimstones, and their yellow wings have orange spots on them. I wonder what could have brought them here. There are no plants or flowers for miles. They settle on the teeth of a skull. The birds are just as carefree as the butterfly because they have long since got used to the war. Every morning, larks rise between the 2 frontline trenches. A year ago, we watched them nesting, and they even brought up a brood of young ones.